welcome to the Meet the Eatmons Endangered Species podcast, where we inspire, uplift, and spotlight families and leaders who are kind of standing out in today's world. And so we're excited to be here today. We're your hosts, Spring Eatman.
Curtis Eatman.
And today we have a really good topic. So we had a really good conversation last week, right?
Yes, we did.
We were talking about marriages and all that good stuff. And we were talking about
men and women
yes,
and the
past
roles,
versus present,
expectations. We was getting into
so
it, man.
good.
Your eyelashes and all that.
Oh gosh, here you go. It was good though. It was good. So if you haven't watched that one, go back, watch that one.
Check that out.
Because today is going to kind of feed into that conversation because we started off talking about marriages, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it's important for us to talk about how do we get into marriages, right? Which is dating.
Yeah.
Because so many people, which we were talking about last week, is that they find themselves with unrealistic expectations, or they find themselves, committing only to like the highlight reel of what their relationship could be.
Best case scenario,
right? The best case scenario. And so how do you not get there? How do you make sure that you are in your dating life starting things off on the right foot so that you can set yourself up for a healthy marriage? So with that in mind, what would you say are some of the most important things for men to look for, or even to start in within themselves, their mindset as they're going into dating?
I think everybody loves, going on Instagram and going on Facebook, or maybe you're at church, or maybe you're out the mall, whatever it is, and you see somebody that's look like they're happy, in their relationship, holding hands, maybe they got the family together and all that. And you're like, as a man, like one day I want to build a kingdom like that.
Right.
Yeah. One day I want to be able to have my queen and have my kids and eventually have grandchildren and all that. Right. So I think first and foremost, you have to have a vision of where you want to have, because ultimately everything starts with how you think.
Yes.
So you got to create in your mind, like, okay, like what do I want this to look like? What is the finish line? What is it? What's the end goal? And then you backwards engineer it. So like, what type of man do I need to be able to lead a family if I want a family? What type of man I need to be able to be married if I want to be married? What type of man do I need to be able to have children and properly be able to train and develop them and with the right principles and values so they don't depart from later on in life? So I think ultimately it's going to the destination first of what you really want, because some people don't want a family.
Right.
Some men don't want a family. Some men say, you know what, I just want to be single the rest of my life and just lead and handle my career and handle my purpose. And great, you can do that. And so I think it's being very clear on what you want and what you don't want, number one. And that's like dating yourself and asking yourself the real tough questions that most men don't ask themselves. And then so since they don't ever ask themselves the real serious question, then they'll start compromising things that they really don't want in the first place. So you have to ask yourself, do I really want kids?
Right.
Am I okay with kids?
Right.
And what kind of kids? Can I be in a blended family? Can I handle that? Would I be open to that? Maybe something I need to think about down the road, or that's a non-negotiable.
Like, okay, is it negotiable if she bad?
No, real talk. So these are questions that most men never ask themselves, right? So then they get hit with it, and they're like, okay, I'll accept it, but then they get all this resentment because they didn't really want it in the first place, but they were okay to try it out.
Right.
I think you got to be very clear on what you don't want and what you do want. And that goes in the dating process of you and saying, okay, how do I want my finances to be when I lead a family? How do I want, me to be physically? How do I want to be? Do I want to be strong enough, to be able to pick my wife up and run 5 miles if something bad happened? Or like, I don't know. Some people are in the gym just waiting for that day to happen. All right. So like, what do you want physically? What do you want to be mentally tough like? Like what kind of books are you reading right now so you can be mentally tough when things happen? So it's really, I think ultimately before it even comes to the relationship part, it's really the relationship with yourself. Do you love yourself? And like, do you love what you're about? Do you love where you're going? Because your energy is so up when you're so clear on where you're going.
Yeah.
And a man that doesn't know where he's going is only going to lead his family down anyways.
Right.
You know, so I think first and foremost, are you clear on what type of empire you're about to build and what type of king you need to be able to have that empire be prosperous and abundant, so it doesn't get conquered by someone else in essence. So,
yeah, I think that's super good too. And I think that even as a precursor to this part of the conversation, you also have to be clear on if you're ready to be dating seriously. Like, are you dating to marry right now, or are you just having fun? Are you dating just to date? Are you dating just to, you know, get out there and experience people and see what you like? And I think it's really important for you to be really clear and upfront with that with yourself, but also with the person that you may potentially be partnering with, because you might come across somebody and you're in a place where you're like, listen, I don't want anything serious right now. I may be open to something serious if it developed that way, but at this current moment, I kind of want to just see what's out there. I'm just really wanting to have a casual dating situation. But the woman that you're getting involved with, the man you're getting involved with, they're looking to seriously date to marry, you can find yourself in a frustrating situation.
That's going to be a very, very
like
big
that.
issue.
So, I mean, if we're talking about like what are the steps of how do you make sure you don't frustrate yourself and waste your time, I think that's probably the first one, is making sure that you're both on the same page about the course of how you're going to date. Like, how is it going to be? Is this a casual dating situation? Are we both open to something serious if it were to turn into that? Are we dating to marry? Are we seeing if this is going to possibly go somewhere? Because all of those different questions that you're asking yourself are going to be very different with that. And I think that it's very important to put those expectations out there. I think specifically women, most women are dating looking for marriage, and they expect that everyone is doing that. And then you get yourself in a frustrated place when you're trying to get a man to commit to you that was never committed to committing.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But how do you find out?
But that's the thing. You have to ask those questions. So first of all, you have to know that for yourself. And so I think that people are just so shy to communicate early. And it's just such an important thing to do. You know, and it's like, if I ask you instead of assuming, then I don't have to be frustrated, because then I can take what you say and I could decide if I'm willing to still invest, you know, myself in hope that you change, which is another thing that we'll talk about, or if I'm willing to, you know, kind of see how things go.
Would you say that most people don't ask the question that needs to be asked because maybe their own insecurity their own insecurity is saying, well, this may be it for me?
Yes, definitely. I think women only think that they are afraid of rejection. Number one, sometimes women don't think that men have that, which I don't think is true. I think men probably have even more of a fear of rejection because they're constantly being put in a position to be rejected. Right? Because every woman wants the man to come to her.
Of course.
Every woman wants to be courted. Every woman wants to be swept off her feet. And so to even approach that, you have to do an approach. So you're put in a position to be, you know, shot down. And so
attempts,
and so that can be tough for men. But I think that in general, people are afraid of rejection. And so it's like, well, if I don't say the right thing right now, I could possibly, you know, lose my chance or my opportunity with this person. But in reality, you're going to only either not waste your time or further solidify, like, early enough that you can detach your emotions from it, if this is the person that's for me or not.
That's deep.
Yeah, I think that's really important. But I would say for women, I think definitely there has to be some internal work. I think on both sides, like you said. But I think for women, it's very important for us to address, for women and men, I can't even just say this for women. I feel like it's very important to address, especially if you're in a position where you're like, okay, I want to see myself dating towards marriage. That doesn't mean that the next person that I date, they're going to be my wife or my husband. But I'm intentionally dating because that's where I see myself going. I think it's very important to address your traumas. before you start really getting into that relationship. Because I think so often we see people projecting their stuff onto someone else,
Ooh.
projecting their insecurities and their issues onto someone else,
Yeah.
and expecting them to clean up their mess.
Ooh. Oh wow, that's deep. So because so basically you're saying you're dating someone, expecting them to be your therapist at the same point.
Right. Right. Like for me to be able to make it to the altar with you, you need to heal what my last boyfriend did to me. You need to heal what my dad did to me. And you need to prove to me that you're safe enough for me to be able to like to be with in that longevity way, right? Where in
Wow.
reality, you have to do some work to kind of assess and address some of those things within yourself first, so that you can give that person a fair shot.
Well, let's piggyback on that because you just mentioned something like someone that's going through trauma, maybe had, let's call it today. A lot of men will, date women and they'll dub them as having daddy issues.
Right.
Right. So how does someone that maybe didn't have their father, their dreams in their life, or didn't have the love that they needed, when they were being raised, now wants to now seek that in another man in regards to filling that slot? Like what is the steps for them to become whole first before they accept another man to try to be something that they never had in the first place, but they seek?
Yeah. I think definitely, and especially in minority communities, there's a big stigma around getting therapy and seeing someone. I think that I wish, and I think we've done a lot of work, to be honest, to normalize it.
Yeah.
But there's still some stigmas out there. But I think it's important for you to do that work, date yourself, and find out what your triggers are. Like, okay, in my last relationship, what were the main things that were triggering me? What were some of the main issues that I had? What are the expectations that I have of a man? Why do I have that expectation? Okay, why? Okay, why? Okay, why? I think the seven deep why, it really, really will help you get clarity. And if you don't know what the 7 deep why is, it's that, like, if you find an issue and you just keep asking yourself why, and then once you answer that, ask yourself why to that 7 deep, you usually can get to a root pretty quickly.
Yes, you can.
Like a root belief, right? So it's like this. It's like the olives are what we pick off of here, but these olives are the symptom, the fruit, right? And it's what we see and what we deal with off of the tree, but it's the roots that create the olives, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to understand what are our roots, our root beliefs, and why do we have that system, and does it serve us?
Yeah.
Because then it'll help you to get to a healthier place for yourself. So that's the thing that I just want to keep reiterating with relationships that people really miss so often, is that healthy relationships start with healthy individuals.
I agree.
And that doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. God knows when we started dating, I was not the most like perfect, healthiest person. I was dealing with a lot of stuff. My first husband had passed away. I was a single mom, but I was actively in counseling. I was doing my work, and I was conscious not to try to put stuff off on you that didn't belong to you.
Yeah, don't add extra luggage on my, you would say, don't add extra baggage to my luggage. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I also think that you talked about like women with daddy issues, but there's also some men out there that are dealing with mommy and daddy issues that are troubling in their relationships, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, I don't know if you've ever seen Love is Blind. But there's like 2 seasons ago, there was this girl, AD. I can't even think of the guy's name, but they were so cute, so perfect for each other, like so in love, all these things. But he literally self-sabotaged the whole situation because he had daddy issues, because he grew up with his mother, and his mom was a beautiful mom and all these things. And he watched his dad cheat on her and hurt her so deeply that he was so afraid that he would do that to somebody else.
Sheesh.
So he was just afraid to even commit into a real relationship, because he was like, I love you so much that I'm afraid to hurt you.
Wow.
Right? Because of what my dad did.
Right.
When it's like, well, you obviously won't do that because you're so conscious of it, right? But
Hopefully.
It's like he had to go and do that work, but it's like, too bad for him that he hadn't already done that work, because he could have had this beautiful, happy marriage, but because of this thing that he didn't do the work, he ended up losing out on the woman of his dreams.
Wow.
It's really unfortunate. So there's a lot of guys out there that have the same thing, or their ex-girlfriend cheated on them, and so now, you know, they checking phones and where you at and becoming possessive and all these different things, which happens on both sides, right?
Yes.
So I think it's just really important to fully heal from your previous relationship, and also fully make sure that you're clear on what your triggers are from your past traumas with your family, things like that, and that you have awareness when they come up, that you don't deal with the fruit, that you deal with the root.
I like that. That was swaggy right there, though. Okay. So, question then on that point: if you're dating someone right now and they you know they went through some past trauma, from what you're saying, daddy issue, mama issue, widow, whatever it may be, right? How is the person supposed to know that the person that they're dating is full or whole before accepting them into their space and having to do all that work with them?
But that's what I'm saying about communication, why it's so important. Because I think people think it's taboo to go back and talk about what was your last relationship like? What was the things that didn't go well in that relationship? You know, not why were you with them and, you know, what happened when y'all broke up, but like, do you feel like there was any residue from that relationship that you're working through still? You know, things that I could be aware of, you know, but I feel like these are conversations that have to be so early. Like,
Yeah, they do.
like people think that the stuff we're talking about, like this is like when they're in love already. It's like, no. This is like third date conversations.
Yeah.
Where I'm okay and I'm cool if this isn't going to work. Right? Because once you're fully invested, it is so hard to like let go when you see the red flags of like, I don't know if I'm willing to deal with all this. Once you're already in love with somebody, it's very hard to let go of that.
Once you're in love, you compromise your values. You compromise your core principles. And then you have to go back, do the real pre-work, kind of what you're mentioning. So what you say is because so many people today, when they're dating, they're so quick to intimacy.
Yes.
So then they become soul tied together.
Yes.
And so they skip all the necessary conversations because they're trying to become more companionship up front.
Yeah.
Would you say that's an issue?
100%.
Okay.
100%. I think people are jumping to the lust of the relationship, like their attraction.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
like, oh, I'm so excited. The butterflies are all of that, and let's just like grow this attraction. Let's just grow the happiness. But that goes back to what you talked about with marriages. It's the same thing in relationships, by the way, in dating. Is that you are only committed to the highlight reel of what you think, where you think this can go. And so I think the sooner you're willing to deal with what are the realities of this person and are these things I'm willing to deal with, that's how you know that you're getting in the conversation of the right type of person. Right?
Right.
So like, for example, when we got together, I think you were crazy a person.
I'm crazy now.
There were some things you were willing to deal with, you know, that you were full eyes wide open to the scenario of what you were dealing with, you know. And for some people, they might be mourning a relationship, but it's not a person, so it's not as obvious. Like, hey, this is what happened. This is what happened to me. You know, so it's not as obvious of like a conversation to have. Like, hey, someone died in your life. Let's make sure you're good. Are you ready for this? Let's do the work to make sure, right? So for you, because you did come into the relationship and you were such a mature guy about not allowing my healing process to affect you, as a person, you were able to give me the space to continue to heal in the way that I needed to, but you were also very secure in like what we were building together, but you also had very clear boundaries. Like, what would you say if there's somebody who's in a situation where they feel like they're interested, they're like, you know, wanting to get involved with somebody, but there are some traumas or some things that person's healing from, like, how do they make the relationship work if that's something that they want to work through?
I think the person that is on the receiving side of things, it's all an interview at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think of relationships, I think of marriage, I think of pretty much anything almost like it all comes down to what am I building and who is fit for those roles that's going to contribute to the empire being built the right way. So you were being interviewed,
Yeah.
right, in essence, to be the queen of my empire,
Right.
right? And so now I have expectations, right? As a wife, I have expectations as a companion, I have expectation as a friend, I have expectation of those things. And I'm clear on those boundaries so that since I knew what I was looking for and I met you and I interviewed you and it matched, it was easy to say yes. Right. And I think, unfortunately, so many people are not clear on the role that they would like in their empire. So that's why they'll take anybody. And so when you start taking anybody that's
Just
not
because they
fit,
have the look.
there you go.
Yeah.
You had but you don't have the resume.
Child.
Okay. So
It's like me showing up to golf looking like I'm PGA ready, but the swing is not.
you facts. You're not too bad at golf though, but I get what you're going with there. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's very true. So I think that when you are, again, sitting with someone that's went through any type of trauma, or you're sitting with someone that has any type of background that, maybe they're going through right now and they're trying to obviously position themselves to be whole, you're interviewing, you're checking on them and saying, number one, do I want to deal with the process that they're going through? Can I handle it myself?
Right.
Right? Or is my insecurities too loud where I can't handle it?
Right.
All right. And number two, is this person worth going through that journey with them till they're fully whole? Because they may never become fully whole. And that's just a reality.
Yeah.
All right. So am I willing to go through that journey with you?
Right.
And that's in the interviewing process. You'll know right up front. Because it's the same thing, we run businesses and you hire in different employees or you hire different agents or, whatever you're trying to do to reach your goals. And the question is this person a project or is this person a player? Am I willing to invest in this person for a long term because I can see the potential in them?
Oh,
all right.
So good. That's a project.
Yeah, that's a project, man. You're not where you need to be today, but no worries. I can help you out. Like, like there's going to be some more investment. But hey, someone invested in me and look where I'm at today. So here, I'm willing to invest in you because I'm looking at a higher return. I can see a high return in you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the same process. It's like, where are we at? Are you already game ready?
Yeah.
Right. Or do we need to go practice some more so you can become game ready?
Child, this is so good.
So when you start really processing that, then you kind of look at it and say, okay, what is my expectation of time? Am I okay with this being infinite? Am I okay? Like, you got 6 months to get that together.
Yeah.
Is there timelines? Is there a duration period for this trauma to be alleviated? Or is this an ongoing process that we're just going to always have to, just do a check-in on?
Right.
But ultimately, if the trauma affects our relationship and our bond, then it's not going to work anyways.
Right.
Because it cannot get in between what we have as a relationship. The trauma has to be outside of that. Right. And if you cannot compartmentalize that, then that's when the issues come, because now you have your issues now involved in our relationship.
Yes.
And when it's all mixed in the same pot, it doesn't taste the same way because that was not an ingredient that we thought that should be in the meal that we're cooking together in the first place.
Right.
So I think that as a person that's looking to get into a relationship with someone that maybe is going through some of those issues, is you got to interview them the right way. Be clear on your roles, the expectations of what you want them to be able to step into that role as, and are they committed to that? But ultimately for you, are you okay with where they're at and how long it's going to take for them to accomplish it?
Man, that is so good for you to even process your early dating life as an interview process.
100%.
Most people don't do that. They're like, oh, you're going to be the one because you look the part. Oh, you're going to be the one because you look the part, right? You look like the CEO, so I'm going to give you the salary right now.
Yeah.
You said all the good things in the interview, but did I check your references?
That's it.
Did I actually look at your resume? Just because you sound good and you look good, it doesn't mean that you're going to be good for this role that I'm looking to fill.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people miss that part. But as far as that goes, we talk a lot about treating your relationship, your dating life, all those things like a business.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you are looking for some sort of return on that. So what are some of the specific questions you think should be asked early in dating, and when, at what point should they be asked, do you think?
I think the first date, we usually dated somebody, is first and foremost, can you just even have fun together?
Yeah.
Like, it's the first, giggly butterfly, like, do we even kiki with each other?
Yeah.
And do we like being around each other?
Yeah.
Or is it a bunch of awkward pauses and all this different stuff? It's just an easy flow. I think that's number one. Okay.
Right.
And then you go into the next phase, right? You go to date number two, right? You start talking about more specific things. It's like, okay, so tell me what you like. And you might have all this conversation in the first meeting, by the way, at the first date.
Right.
And you start really going into a little bit deeper and tell me about your family. Because ultimately, if I start dating you, I'm going to eventually come across your family.
Oh my gosh, this is such an important point. Oh my gosh.
So first is fun. We're going to, do we even like each other, number one? And because if I like you, then I want to get to know you.
Right.
And then if I get to know you, then I get to what? I get to start getting in a position of trusting you.
Right.
All right. So like, no trust is kind of the process in my head, and that's how it works. So I liked you first. Okay, cool. Now let me get to know you a little bit more. Let me know about your family. Do you have children? Would you like to have children one day? How many? Is that negotiable? What is not negotiable for you? What are you looking for in a man? What are some certain things and expectations? Are you dating to marry? Are you dating right now just to have fun? Are you in the season more of yourself right now, doing your career? Or is it more like I'm looking for a companion because I'm looking to build something? I only have so many years left in my life in regards that I had open to make sure I'm married. Whatever it is, these are the questions you got to ask.
And not just do you want kids, but how soon in a marriage is that something you feel like you need?
Yes.
Some people are like, we both said we wanted kids. I want kids now. He wants kids in 20 years, 10 years. It's like, that's still a very different conversation.
Different timeline for sure.
Exactly.
So does your timelines even match?
Exactly.
Because that might be the same thing for marriage. You
Yeah.
know, it might be like, well, I'm looking to get married like, once I know and God told me I'm good, I'm going to get married. Some people are like, nah, we got 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, you on probation for 5 years, brother. Like, and some people do that, So are you clear on that? And are you both okay with that?
Right.
And then also living arrangements and all those different things. Like, what's your principle on living arrangements? What's your principle on, us having a conversation with your mom? When do I meet your parents? When do I not? Does it even make sense to meet your parents? How are your relationship with your mom? How is your relationship with your dad? How's your relationship with your siblings? Are they overbearing? Are they in your relationships too? Because some people have, their family in their relationships.
Yes.
And so you're going to be very, very clear on that right up front so that you know what you're walking into.
So I have to take a pause here and sit for a second in this, because this is something that I feel like I constantly am preaching, is that it is so important to be clear that you do not just date a person, that you are dating their family, like 100%. Specifically when you get married to them. It's like you need to be clear on the family dynamics before you're falling in love with this person. Because if it's a I'm in love with you already situation, I'm going to say, well, I can't see myself being in this family, but I'm going to make it work because I love him already. Yeah. Right? But that is a very important thing to know, how the family dynamics are, because you are going to end up, if you end up marrying this person, that is your life.
Sure is your
That's
life.
Your life. Like, these people are a part of your marriage. They're a part of your life. And so you have to understand, okay, if their family is a little crazy, suspect, how much does the person allow them to affect them and their relationships? Because it's like, okay, their family's a little crazy, but they have really clear boundaries. They're not going to allow those people to really like disrupt us and what we're building. Then that's okay. That's one thing. But if they're like the type of person that's like, well, it's my mom. Well, what do you want me to say? It's like, nope, it ain't gonna work. Just let me tell you right now, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. It's gonna be a hot mess, okay? Yes. And I'm so grateful that I listened to that advice of myself from bad experience, and I'm like, have the best relationship with your parents. They're the most amazing. But that is such an important thing, such an important thing. But really quickly, I want to talk about when we started dating. You did something really important. There was some things that were happening, with family dynamics and stuff that that you weren't quite sure about. We were already 10 toes down pretty much, right? We were like, okay, we see this. We had did the hard questions, doing work, all that stuff. But then we were like, okay, we see this going somewhere. And then there was a hard stop issue that was crossing your boundary consistently. Not by your fault or mine, but it was still something that was very much crossing a boundary for you.
Yep.
And you were willing for us to break up in that scenario to find and possibly find our way back. So what would you like, speak to that and what we did during the breakup process that I think some people are afraid to do when they find themselves in this point in a relationship?
Yeah, I think when we did break up, and this is not, we didn't break up in marriage, to be very clear, right?
No, we were dating. We were dating.
We're still dating. This is the dating process. And because the boundary was, again, I guess you would say it was crossed to my standard, right? So then I had to make a decision. And I think, if you're going to be able to lead your family, you got to make hard decisions. So I was very clear on what I tolerate and what I don't tolerate. And since that was crossed for me during that process, I would still say what? How are you doing? I would send you scriptures. I would see all
I'm
this
like, bro,
stuff.
you cannot help me through our breakup. Get out of here.
Hey, because I know it wasn't you specifically, but I just knew, I already knew that it was you, but I didn't know it was you at that moment.
That's literally what you said to me.
Yeah.
You said, I know that God showed me that you're going to be my wife, but I just don't know if that's right now.
I don't know if it's right now. And so during that process of time, we both worked on each other, I worked on me, consistently. And I think that's the problem. I think so many people are so scared of being by themselves. So they're not willing to make the hard decision if it comes, in front of them, to make sure that the right decision is strong.
Yes.
And so I wanted to make sure that if we were going to go into the next round, which we are, and we were doing great, that it was the right decision because it would be tested to be approved.
That's so good.
And so this was a test. Boundary was crossed. Okay, we're going to take a break really fast and let's see if it comes back. If it does come back, let's test it to be authentic. If it's not authentic, I'm okay with it.
Right.
This
is so good because I think this brings up a point for me too, is that so many people, one of the first things that we missed is that you also consult God in the person that you're seeking to be in a relationship with. It's like you want God to cover every area of your life, but you're like, well, God, I'm not going to ask you about this person until we're ready to get married, and I don't really care what you have to say about it because I'm just going to ask you to cover my mess.
Or it's going to be a lot of messiness happening. Now, God, please help us in this relationship, but you never consulted him for that person in the first place, so why you want him to help you bless it now?
If he going to order your steps, baby, you got to let him order every step, not some of them, right? And
or
so
your missteps.
One of the things that I thought was dope was when we were thinking about getting back together, we started paying a tithe.
Which we did.
So talk about that.
Yeah, so we decided, if we wanted blessings in regards to us and what we're going, let's go ahead and not just tithe individual, which we already did, let's tithe for our relationship. So let's sow a seed so we can get a major harvest in this relationship if we're supposed to be together. And I don't know, your ring looks pretty gleaming. I guess we're still together.
It's a harvest, baby. It's a harvest.
I guess we're still together. All right,
so. But yeah, them seeds fell on good ground. Let me tell you something. Yes. But that's so important. I thought that was so powerful that you suggested that for us. That hey, you pay your tithe, I'm gonna pay my tithe, but let's pay a tithe together to say, God, is this what you want?
Yes.
Because we don't want to take a step outside of your order, and if this is what you have for us, then you'll show it.
I think so many people, again, want God to be the overseer, and they want the blessings, they want the all the great things that God can obviously give you, but they never actually invite God as a partner to the relationship. So that's all the tithe is. When we said that, when I suggested is that let's invite him to the hardest thing that is for us, which is our finances usually, right? And so let's go and combine that, because if we're going to combine each other, I want him in everything that we do. And so if we do that and we sow that offering and we sow that seed, then if he blesses it, then I know.
Right. The other thing that you did, that you suggested that we ended up doing, was for us to go through a blended families class.
Yes, we did.
Because I already had 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so cool. So did everybody that was in the class, because everybody that was in the class, they were already married. And they were navigating the situation of blended families. And so
You're 25 years old. You're probably the youngest person in there, too.
I was.
Yeah.
I was the youngest person, and we weren't married. And they were like, what? You guys are doing this already?
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. Most people only address the issues once they're already married, already committed, already having problems. And it's like, that's the pre-work that has to be done. Yeah. So that helped give us so many tools for how to navigate being married or in a possible marriage in the future with kids.
Yes.
And how is this dynamic going to work? How much are you going to be involved? How much am I going to be involved? What happens when you want to discipline the kids versus me?
Yep.
You know, all of that kind of stuff. Like, where's our boundaries and how is this going to look?
Right.
And it really painted those pictures for us before we committed to marriage to say, yeah, this is something that I do want, that I like the way that picture looks, you know, versus, I don't know if I could deal with that. Right.
Yeah. We could make course corrections before. And I think it was more of a wisdom move, because, you know, why go through all those experiences, all those missteps and mistakes that obviously we're living life, we're all learning. When we can just learn from other people that are already married, that are already blended, that already got classes for, let's just learn from it, right?
And let me just be clear. The tithes, the blended family class, this is why we're broken up. This is why we're broken up. Yeah. So but we're both wanting to get back together, but we were both very committed to doing the right work.
Yes.
To say, all right, if this is going to work out, we know this is because when we get back together, this is going to go.
This is going to go great. Launch, right? Yes. And that's what you want. You want exponential growth, right? So I think those are the decisions that need to be had. And so many people, again, you already mentioned that the pre-work is understanding the destination and where you want. So we were clear on the destination. So we were clear that the vehicle that we were in at that present moment was not going to get us to the destination.
Yeah.
So we had to take a hard stop, park, get out on the side of the road, have a conversation, and start walking. You walk in your lane, I walk in my lane. And you know what? We'll hopefully get back into another vehicle together. And obviously, you know, we're riding pretty smooth. We're not in a vehicle anymore. We're in a jet. So,
hey, come on now.
Yeah, so
I love it.
So hopefully that can help some of you guys on that.
That was so good. I feel like, so what do you feel like are some like closing remarks that you would have for couples that are looking to date? They're like, hey, Curtis, okay, I'm in the spot where maybe I'm thinking about dating, maybe I'm already in that process, or I'm already in a serious relationship that I want to get married. What would you say are like some just key last mindsets or things you want to leave with them?
I think most importantly, again, number one, being in love with yourself, and ask yourself, like, look in the mirror, be very direct. And I think these are the questions that most don't ask is, do I love where I'm at today? And if I don't love where I'm at today, what does that look like for me to be satisfied in loving myself? What's the gap? All right? Because before you could even go into loving someone else, you got to fully love you. And so what does that look like? Is it emotionally? Is it spiritual? Is it physical? What is it for you? Right? And be very clear on that. If you need to seek help in that regard, you need to seek help. If you need to seek accountability in that, you seek accountability, whatever it may need. So I would say, don't be scared to ask yourself that real question, number one. And then when you are stepping into relationships and you are out and you are, we call it outside, being outside and having, you know, someone that could potentially be your companion, don't be scared to ask them the serious questions before you become into an intimate situation where you will compromise what you know is serious for you for the future, just for some fun in the beginning. So that temporary moment could be a permanent mistake. And then now you have a bunch of resentment going on because now you got kids, now you got, you know, your finances all tied up together. You've been living each other for so long. Now you both got a lease together. You got all these problems now because you're now tied together, but you never did the pre-work to make sure that contract together was going to last.
That's
all right.
So
yeah, that would be my biggest closing remark. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that number one, you just go back to, you know, your whole person, you know, you being a strong, powerful individual, them being a strong, powerful individual, do your pre-work on individually, and then do your pre-work in the relationship. And just remember that the best relationships are built on communication.
Yes. I think next time we should talk about the code of honor.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think the
Let's
next
do
one we'll
that.
talk about code of honor, what really positioned us as a strong foundation to really be able to build our empire off of. I think it can help a lot of people. So make sure you follow us on all the socials. Meet the Eatmons. If you want to go to our website, which is eatmanempire.com, it'll probably pop on the screen. Find us on there. Connect with us. Give us your Q&A if you have any. We'd love to conversate, and please leave in the comments wherever you're watching this a little bit what you took from this and anything that you would like to hear from us as well.
Yes, of course. Yes. And thank you guys for listening. And I'll just say this. I think it's so important for us to note that, as the world is constantly changing and all the things are happening today, it's very important for us to build strong individuals, strong leaders, strong relationships, strong families,
Yes.
Because that creates strong communities. And that's what we're looking to help create in a world of endangered species. And just like it's important and it's possible for you to, do the work and to survive, I want you to know that your survival is not only possible, but it's vital.
Yes,
and so we're excited for you to continue to join us on our journey of endangered species. Have a good one, guys.